Chapter 600. Buzz. Buzz. Within the borders of Qingyang County, the ground shook regularly, and many warriors were shocked. This kind of huge movement was like a terrible earthquake, and there was also a sense that the end of the world was coming. The corner of Mu Changhong's mouth twitched violently. How did this little guy suddenly have such terrifying strength? Wait. Did he just say that it was the will of the inheritance of the sect of all times? Could it be that this was some kind of powerful special magical power that could instantly increase one's cultivation? Mu Changhong had just come out of seclusion, and he didn't know much about the sect of all times. The warriors of the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Certification Hall who were hiding in the dark instantly remembered the rumors. What rumors? When the numerous sects were recruiting, Jun Changshao once said that the Iron Bone came from the Iron Bone Mountain of Aolai country, and that the first leader was the great sage equaling heaven. At first, many people didn't take it seriously. Now that he suddenly borrowed the power of his ancestors and had such terrifying strength, could it be true? No one would believe a lie once, but someone would believe it if he said it repeatedly. Moreover, he suddenly went berserk with a powerful cultivation, and he brutally beat up a half-step Wusheng. They had to believe it even if they didn't. Yi Xingqian, who was in the sect, witnessed how the patriarch bullied the supreme elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace. He was even more convinced that the sect originated from the upper realm. He Wudi was also very excited. This kind of sudden increase in power to the saint level must be some kind of powerful magical power left by the Seven Profound Lord. He came to the Falling Star continent and joined the sect of all times as a disciple. This was definitely a great opportunity bestowed by God. Sigh. The two of them were hopeless. Boom. The energy blasted into the deep pit again, and dust filled the air, covering the sky and the sun. Gradually, everything was clear. The Supreme Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace sunk into the ground, and his whole body was blasted into a bloody mess. He was almost unconscious. Tragic. Extremely tragic. The Supreme Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace was still half a step away from the real Wusheng. In front of Jun Changshao, who had greatly stimulated his cultivation, he was really vulnerable. Speaking of which, at the very least, he would be promoted by one major realm. Jun Patriarch went straight from the 9th grade double kings of sword and martial arts to Wusheng, which showed that his body had great potential. No matter how big it was, it couldn't escape the side effects of weakness. So, don't look at how overbearing it was now. Once the effects were over, it would definitely be over. Shwa. Jun Changshao passed through space and landed in the deep pit. Trash. The Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace was still conscious, but he didn't have the strength to speak. He could only lie there weakly while enduring the intense pain. Jun Changshao's spirit energy erupted and wrapped around him, pulling him in front of him. He said, "My sect's disciple is the Ice Emperor's successor. Aren't you stupid to come here so recklessly? The successor of the Ice Empress?" A hint of confusion appeared in the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder's weak gaze. From the look in his eyes, Jun Changshao knew that he definitely didn't know that Lu Qianqian had inherited the Ice Emperor's legacy. That's right. The Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace didn't know. When he found out that his sect had suffered heavy casualties and was almost exterminated, he rushed over in a fit of rage. He didn't know anything else. What about the Extreme Coldness Palace Master? Although he was at the scene, in order to protect the main hall, he was covered in injuries from the explosion of the thunder array. In the end, he collapsed on the ground powerlessly. He didn't even know that Lu Qianqian showed the Ice Emperor's token later on. The most tragic thing was, none of the 8 patriarch told him about it. When the Extreme Coldness Palace Master recovered slightly, he headed to the Endless Ice Sea without hesitation and complained to the Grand Elder. Northeast Lu Province. The 8 patriarch of the fourth-rate sects sat together and drank tea. The Xianling sect patriarch said, I didn't expect the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder to have broken through and become a half-step Wusheng. He killed his way to southwest Yang province without knowing. He can definitely deal a heavy blow to the sect of all times and let the world know that those who bully Lu province must pay the price. Luckily, we didn't tell him about the Ice Emperor's successor. Otherwise, even if he broke through and became a half-step Wusheng, the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder might not have the guts to find trouble. He will know about it sooner or later. However, what's done can't be undone. We just have to wait and watch the show. Come, have some tea. If the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder in southwest Yang province heard what they said, he would definitely vomit blood. You bastards are using my Extreme Coldness Palace as a tool. Old fellow. Jun Changshao grabbed the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder and said coldly, since you're here, don't go back. The sect of all times happens to lack servants. Stay here and clean the courtyard. Mu Changhong's mouth twitched. Half-step Wusheng cleaning the courtyard of the sect of all times. This was definitely an insult to the Grand Elder's dignity. Jun Patriarch was already merciful for not killing him on the spot when he almost severely injured little Long Long and destroyed the sect's protective array. A half-step Wusheng was not an ordinary person. Chapter 601. Suddenly, someone appeared out of thin air and blocked their path, shocking the four Piku Huang. This aura. They immediately realized that this person was definitely an expert. Who are you? One of the Wu Huang from the Devil Fiend's sect hurriedly cupped his hands and said. Jun Changshao. Sect of all times patriarch. The four Wu Huang's eyes were filled with astonishment. When they came, they already knew that this guy was a sword and martial king. How could he have the ability to fly? One of the Wu Huang questioned, are you really Jun Changshao? Whoosh Jun Patriarch slapped over. It seemed very soft, but when it hit the left side of the other party's face, it immediately shot towards the ground. Boom! The ground caved in, forming a huge pit. Not only was that Wu Huang's entire face crooked, his entire body completely fell apart, and he fainted on the spot. Hiss! The other three people were so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out. Casually killing a peak Wu Huang, could this guy be a half-step Wusheng? No. Just now, the space shook so violently, and he walked out from it. This kind of strong spatial control, didn't it mean that this person was Wusheng? The three of them exclaimed in unison. Bang! 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 Jun Changshao didn't waste any time and slapped each of them, causing them to fall to the ground like three cannonballs. When they came, the four of them were still discussing how to intimidate the sect of all times and how to get back the spirit stones. Especially the two Peak Wu Huang from the God-slaying hall, who met the experts of the Devil Fiend's sect on the way, expressed their willingness to help and only asked for 1,000 or 800 spirit stones. In the end, before they even reached the Iron Bone Mountain, they were already dead. Compared to the Supreme Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace, at least they still caused trouble for the sect of all times. Plop! Plop! The four Peak Wu Huang fell onto the martial arts practice field one after another. Their sole source was controlled by Jun Changshao. Including the Palace Lord of the Extreme Coldness Palace just now, the five of them were just enough to form the strongest heavenly group and head to the Western Paradise to retrieve the scriptures. Patriarch. Elder Wei transmitted his voice, leave them to clean the courtyard. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, Peak Wu Huang should be very precious. Lock him up and let the two heretical sects ransom him. By controlling the Extreme Coldness Palace's Grand Elder, the Extreme Coldness Palace would no longer be a threat. Third-rate heretical sects were different. Killing the four-peak stage Wu Huang would only make the other party and the school fight to the death. If he forced him to stay and take him as a servant, he would definitely not give up. The best way was to squeeze every bit of value out of them to bring more resources to the sect. In the past, when one reached the peak of each level, the epic quest would be activated. Jun Changshao was one of the two kings of sword and martial arts. Both of them had reached the pinnacle of their respective realms. However, he had not expected that he would be given two epic quests. He clicked on the first quest, Epic Quest 5. Quest details: in half a year, Sect disciples have broken through to the peak of Wuzong, 19500. Martial King, 350. Elders have broken through to the peak of the Martial King, 0. Quest failure, not reached within the time limit. Quest reward: 50 Martial Kings. 1 Peak Martial King. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. This epic quest is a bit difficult. Breaking through to the peak of Wuzong wasn't too difficult. After all, with the help of various resources, the disciples should be able to reach it easily. However, 50 Martial Kings was a bit difficult. Li Qingyang and the others had broken through to the Martial King level, but there were only 20 inner disciples. Who would fill the remaining 30 spots? It seemed impossible for the elders to reach the peak of the Martial King level. After all, the Ning brothers were only at the 5th rank. They had reached the peak level in 6 months, so they had to ensure that they broke through one level in a month. Wait! Jun Changshao suddenly thought of something and said, the herbs planted by Elder Wei should mature in half a year. After refining the Martial King pills, wouldn't it be easy for them to reach the standard? In this way, he only needed to let more disciples break through to the peak of Wuzong, and then use the pills to directly soar. If you want them to break through faster, the host still has to buy the space-time secret realm. The system said. That's right. Jun Changshao also thought so. According to the current resources, they might not be able to reach the requirement in half a year. If they had some higher-level cultivation facilities, they would definitely have a higher chance of success. Not to mention, the quest conditions of the epic quest definitely had a hidden quota. If more disciples could reach the requirement, they would definitely exceed the quota and obtain more generous rewards. The space-time secret realm must be bought. Jun Changshao returned to the attribute panel and clicked on the second epic quest. Epic Quest 6. Quest details: the 3-year promise is coming. At that time, the host will bring the disciples to the Lily Holy Sect to challenge them and help the disciple Xiao Ziji regain the dignity that he had lost. Quest failure: did not arrive on the agreed date, or lost to the Lily Holy Sect. Quest reward: Jun Changshao said in shock, this epic quest is actually related to the 3-year promise. P.S. I'm sorry, something happened and I'm even slower today. There will be more later. Chapter 603. Strictly speaking, the 3-year agreement between Xiao Ziji and Murong Xian was brought about by Jun Changshao. Now that it had become an epic mission, he had asked for it. The mission only says to challenge Xiao Ziji and take back his lost dignity. There are no details at all. How do I complete it? Is it the same as challenging the Holy Spring Sect, where the disciples fight and win enough battles? The Lily Holy Sect is a second-rate sect. Their disciples must be strong. This battle will be very difficult. What made Jun Changshao happy was that, he had been weak for a year, and the second epic mission was to fulfill the 3-year agreement. There was still more than a year left. This gap was very subtle. Comfortable. Jun Patriarch stretched. Breaking through to the peak level would be blocked by the epic mission. So, he did not need to cultivate at all. He only needed to think about how to complete the mission. Whoosh! He opened the shopping list and selected the space-time secret realm. Ding! Host has spent 1,000 contribution points. Space-time secret realm X1. It has been transferred to the spatial ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 4990200000. The space-time secret realm was not a physical entity, but a vortex similar to a teleportation array. It stood in the spatial ring just like that. How do I use this thing? Jun Changshao asked. The system said, just summon it and place it in a fixed location. Understood. Jun Changshao came to the back of the mountain and stopped near the training tower. He immediately summoned the space-time secret realm. Buzz! The surrounding space suddenly became distorted. An oval vortex gradually formed, shining with a special light and filled with a heavy aura. Patriarch. Su Xiaoma came over and asked in surprise, "What is this?" Li Qingyang and the others also came over. Looking at the shining vortex, they were confused and disgusted. Could this be? He Wudi was shocked. A secret realm in the universe. Above the mortal world was the endless universe. In the laws of heaven and earth, some strange vortexes gradually formed. There was another world inside, so it was called a secret realm. It was actually similar to the forbidden area of the falling star continent. Mystic realms were a system of their own. Not only were they special, but they were also dangerous. Therefore, very few people dared to set foot in them. He Wudi's cultivation was powerful in the past, and he had ventured into the secret realm alone or with others. The process could be said to be a narrow escape, but he had obtained a lot of natural treasures. This is a space-time pocket. Jun Changshao said, after entering, time can be sped up, which can help improve one's cultivation. My God, so magical! Everyone exclaimed. He Wudi was also deeply shocked. A secret realm with time acceleration in his own universe would definitely make all the experts go crazy. Jun Changshao said, "Can't we just draw in the outside world's attributes?" He Wudi was speechless. The pocket is a system of its own. The outside world's attributes might not be able to be integrated. Let's try. Jun Changshao left the space-time pocket. A few minutes inside was equivalent to a few seconds in the outside world. The mid-grade spirit gathering array's heaven and earth attributes were drawn from the place of spiritual energy recovery. Like a water pipe, Jun Patriarch pulled out a branch and led it to the space-time pocket. Huff huff, majestic heaven and earth spiritual energy poured in through the vortex. Gradually, the inner space had heaven and earth attributes dozens of times stronger than other places. This, He Wudi was dumbfounded. The pocket was an independent space. How could the outside world's attributes enter? The pocket he knew was a pocket in the universe. The space-time pocket came from the mall, so it naturally had its own uniqueness. Oh 98K. Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, "The spiritual energy problem is solved. You can cultivate here if you have nothing to do in the future." Patriarch. Su Xiaoma smiled and said, "Can you set up a spirit gathering array here?" Smack. Jun Changshao hit his head and said, "You're really smart. I didn't train you for nothing." Su Xiaoma's words woke him up. He hurriedly called Jin Dejuan and said, "Set up a spirit gathering array here." Huh? Jin Dejuan was stunned and said, "Patriarch, I don't know how to." "Aren't you a formation king?" "I am a formation king, but I've never seen this kind of array and protective array set up by Patriarch." Elder Zhen had studied the mid-grade spirit gathering array in addition to teaching the disciples. Although he could see the internal lines, it was still amazing. Too awesome. Too perfect. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, "I have a secret book called the Chiman 32 Formations here. You can study it first." Huh? Zhen Dejuan took it and subconsciously opened it. Then, his expression changed again and again. As an array expert, he didn't need to analyze too much. Just from the various array lines and the arrangement of the array, he could tell that the Chiman 32 Formations was a masterpiece of array. Chapter 604. During the trip to northeast Luzhou, the kind of madness that Jin Dejuan showed was very much to Jun Patriarch's liking. They were birds of a feather. Moreover, appointing him as the elder of the array hall, he had long planned to hand over the Chi Men 32 Formations. Therefore, it was a good opportunity to set up a spirit gathering array in the secret realm. To put it bluntly, It was nothing more than paving the way for the future. After getting the copy of the Qi Men 32 formations, Zhen Dejuan began to study it. He didn't even eat the food cooked by Lu Wanshi for the whole day. This was absolutely intoxicating. He didn't disappoint Jun Changshao. In just a few days, he had comprehended the middle-grade spirit gathering array. Schwa. Schwa. In the space-time secret realm, the array flags flew out and were inserted in fixed positions. After the array was set up, it began to outline the line. Buzz, everything was done. A stream of light soared into the sky, and the middle-grade spirit gathering array was condensed. Amazing, amazing. Jun Patriarch, who was hiding in the distance, applauded. Why did he keep a distance? He was worried that Elder Zhen's first arrangement would not succeed and cause an explosion. In terms of qualifications, the 9th grade array king was not weaker than Jun Changshao, who relied on the aptitude modification liquid. Patriarch. Zhen Dejuan said, I will continue to comprehend the Qi Men 32 formations. Go, go. Jun Changshao entered the spirit gathering array and felt the 100 times heaven and earth attributes inside. He murmured, coupled with the 50 times time acceleration here, the cultivation speed will only be more terrifying. Within half a year, let more disciples break through to the peak of Wuzong. That will be easy. 50 times the time, 100 times the spirit force, a year in the outside world, 50 years of cultivation here, that will definitely take off. Moreover, another advantage of the space-time secret realm was that if one was stuck in a certain realm, one could use time to comprehend and break through. This was something that the 100 times spirit gathering array could not do. But there were also flaws. Under the acceleration of time, one's lifespan was also consumed quickly. For example, if a person cultivated for 50 years, although only 1 year had passed in the outside world, 50 years of lifespan was equivalent to consuming. If a martial cultivator who was nearing the end of his lifespan entered the space-time secret realm and was unable to achieve a breakthrough to the next realm, it would be a quick suicide. The disciples are all very young. As long as they break through a major realm, their lifespan will increase. This shortcoming is not a big problem. Let them cultivate for 100 years in there, and that's only 2 years in the outside world. Even if they don't reach Martial King realm, it's still possible for them to reach Wu Huang realm. Just as Jun Patriarch was beginning to fantasize about a beautiful tomorrow, the system suddenly said, once you enter the space-time realm, you can only cultivate for 3 days according to the outside world. You will be automatically sent out if you are delayed by even 1 second. Jun Changshao said in surprise, why didn't the introduction mention a time limit? Just because he didn't say anything doesn't mean there isn't one, the system said. Fuck. Jun Changshao was on the verge of breaking down. Only cultivating for 3 days? That's too stingy. 3 days was equivalent to 150 days. This was a huge difference from his fantasy of cultivating for hundreds of years. The system said, after all, it's just a beginner-grade secret realm. If the host wants to obtain more time and acceleration effects, you'll have to purchase a higher-grade secret realm. This was really pouring cold water on him. The hot-blooded Jun Patriarch was now cold all over. Don't just stand there. The system said, now that the flow of time is 50 times faster, the host is wasting a few minutes of his life by standing there in a daze. You can either cultivate quickly or leave quickly. Schwa. Jun Patriarch hurriedly left. He was now at the peak level, and his realm was stuck. There was no need for him to cultivate, so why waste his life in there? Sigh. Jun Changshao comforted himself. 3 days is 3 days. At least it can be accelerated for 5 months every month. In a year, it can be accelerated for several years. Oh right. He slapped his forehead and said, can my side effects be offset in the secret realm? The system was silent for a while, then said, in theory, it can. The disciples of the sect of all times usually came to the back mountain to cultivate in the spirit gathering array. Now, They entered the space-time realm in groups. Because there were only 3 days. Everyone was especially hardworking, cultivating every minute and every second, not daring to slack off. Wudi, who was already suspected of cheating, coupled with the 50 times time acceleration, he would only be more like a Buddha. In order to offset the side effects, Jun Changshao also came in. But he did not cultivate. Instead, he used his mind to comprehend the martial arts and formations. This was the benefit of the space-time realm. It was not necessary to use it to improve one's martial arts. It could also be used to comprehend various martial arts. Just as the system said. After 150 days of comprehension in the secret realm, Jun Changshao and the first batch of disciples were sent out one after another. Many disciples used time, formations, pills, and other things to break through several ranks in 5 months. The speed was obviously much faster than before. Jun Changshao finally understood why there was a time limit. Jun Patriarch personally sent them off, and said with a smile, "This seat has already given you a customs clearance document, you can continue to go to the west to seek the scriptures." Although the 4 Peak Wu Huang who were released didn't understand, they could only sadly drag their bodies away. "Everyone!" Jun Changshao shouted, "Come and play when you have time." "Patriarch." Li Qingyang said, "You really let them go?" "Of course." Jun Changshao said seriously, "The 2 sects paid the ransom, our sect of all times naturally has to be honest." "Patriarch." Su Xiaoma said in a weak voice, "Have the 4's soul origins been returned?" "Pa!" Jun Changshao took out the historical record and smashed it on his head. "You talk too much, get the hell out of here and cultivate." Chapter 606. After Mu Changhong left the sect of all times, he had been waiting for Jun Changshao to find him, but there was no news from him. No. He had to take the initiative. Therefore, he took the initiative to visit him with Mu Honglian. It was not that Jun Patriarch was putting on airs, but because of the side effects, he had to develop the sect and complete the epic mission. Even if he wanted to visit City Lord Mu, it was difficult for him to find the time. In the past few months, Mu Changhong had been investigating everything about Jun Changshao. Especially when it came to his feelings. He was very satisfied with the results. The little guy had been developing the sect and had no romantic rumors at all. That was necessary. If there were paparazzi in this world, they would definitely starve to death by taking photos of Jun Patriarch's private life. Of course. Unscrupulous editors might use headlines to attract attention, such as the dignified leader of a top 3 sect had no feelings until now. Was he morally bankrupt and had a twisted personality, or was there something else? Mu Changhong loved one person in his life. Jun Changshao was a promising young talent, but he had no feelings, so he naturally had a good impression of him. Therefore, he decided to send his daughter to this sect to cultivate. "Does your sect of all times still lack disciples?" "My daughter wants to be your disciple." The subtext of this sentence was, "I lack a son-in-law, so I want to marry my daughter to you." Jun Changshao said, "Yes." Princess Honglian's aptitude was without a doubt, and she was a woman. She could balance the sex situation of having too many men and too few women. Even if there were hundreds of them, he would definitely accept them without hesitation. "Honglian." Mu Changhong smiled and said, "Hurry up and join the Patriarch." Since Jun Patriarch was a person who did great things, he would let his daughter assist him. The 2 of them would slowly build a revolutionary friendship, and then success would come naturally. City Lord Mu was very open-minded and did not care about a master-disciple relationship. In his opinion, men and women of similar age, as long as they were not relatives, had the right to love each other. Managing the city. He was not old and could still do the job. His daughter's happiness was more important. Mu Honglian knew that her father wanted her to join the Jun Patriarch sect. She blushed and bowed. "Disciple Mu Honglian greets the Patriarch." She had long wanted to join the sect of all times. It was just that his father hadn't come out of seclusion and still had to manage the city, so he could only delay it time and time again. Now, his wish had been fulfilled. As for Mu Changhong's thoughts, Mu Honglian didn't care. She came to the sect of all times to become stronger, not for marriage. Ding! Ding! After filling in the entry form, Princess Red Lotus became a disciple of the sect of all times. June Patriarch. Mu Changhong said, "I'll leave my precious daughter to you." When he said this, he found it hard to control his emotions. He almost couldn't hold back his tears. It was said that a daughter was a father's little cotton jacket. However, she would eventually grow up and get married one day. City Lord Mu. Your daughter has only joined the sect of all times, not gotten married. Don't be so sentimental. Mu Changhong didn't leave. Instead, he started talking to Jun Changshao. The two talked about everything from family matters to the world. If they had a deeper conversation, they would talk about the origin of the universe. It's about time. When dusk arrived, Mu Changhong got up and said goodbye. Mu Honglian, who had just been arranged a room, came to send her father off. Looking at his back, she couldn't help but shout, "Father! Daughter!" Mu Changhong stopped and said, "Cultivate well in the sect of all times. Don't disappoint me." No words could express the complicated emotions in her heart. Mu Honglian could only say after a moment of silence, "Okay." Mu Changhong left. Mu Honglian started her cultivation path in the sect of all times. When she just entered the sect, everything was so strange and mysterious. "Senior sister." Hualing lowered his voice and said, "When you come to the sect of all times, you must be careful of Senior Brotherly. His happy football is completely unreasonable." As someone who had experienced it, he had suffered greatly. Xiao, as expected, the happy soccer ball shot out from the martial arts practice field. "Senior sister, be careful." Before he finished, Hualing's eyes widened. Because the ball's target wasn't Mu Honglian, but him. Oh my god. He was so frightened that he hurriedly dodged. But before he could catch the ball with his face, his body also crashed into the wall with a bang. Mu Honglian was dumbfounded. The thing that flew past didn't seem fast, but it seemed to have some kind of power that made it impossible for people to dodge. This was Golden Right Legly Phase killing move. He would catch the ball with his face 100% of the time. Once this move was used, apart from the Patriarch and a few disciples who could dodge, the others could only get into position to receive it. The sect of all times had an unchanging rule. The male disciples who joined had to go through 81 difficulties. Only the female disciples had special care, so Mu Honglian didn't suffer any torture. In just a few days, she had a new understanding of the sect. Patriarch. On this day, she came to the main hall and asked, "Can I cultivate that flame martial technique?" She was talking about the red sky flame slash. Back then, Jun Changshao was in the academy. He directly resolved the move of an expert from the academy. It was still fresh in Princess Honglian's memory. That martial technique is only suitable for men. That's a pity. Mu Honglian's eyes were filled with disappointment. However, Jun Changshao said, "The sect has many good martial techniques. You can learn them as you wish. Yuanxue, take her to the technique pavilion to choose." "Yes, Patriarch." Ling Yuanxue brought Mu Honglian to the technique pavilion. The latter entered and saw the dazzling array of martial techniques on the shelves. She said in surprise, "So many martial techniques. Junior sister. These are all outside martial techniques." Patriarch said, "It's just to make up the numbers. There's no need to cultivate them. Our sect's disciples have to learn unique martial techniques." Ling Yuanxue said as she pointed to a shelf. "These are the unique martial techniques of our sect of all times. You can choose to cultivate them." Oh. Mu Honglian walked over and picked up the self-manual. When she saw the records of the moves, she couldn't help but fall into it. Self-Slash's level wasn't high, but as a spirit energy type martial technique, its advantage was that its consumption was extremely low. This shocked her. Then, Mu Honglien flipped through the rupturing fist, mountain-splitting palm, spirit armor, and other martial techniques. The shock in her eyes became even stronger. Especially the 7 profound light break. This martial technique's incantation and circulation method was different from the falling star continent. It was too profound. Closing the manual, Mu Honglien couldn't calm down for a long time. She muttered, "No wonder senior brother is so strong. These martial techniques are all very good." Junior sister. Ling Yuanxue walked in and said, "This is the body-shaping pill and spirit-tempering pill. I've helped you get them." Body-shaping pill? Mu Honglien was surprised. Is it the kind of pill sold by the AI family in Huyang City? She had heard of this kind of pill before, but she didn't take it to heart. She even thought that even if it had a miraculous effect, it would only be suitable for low levels. That's right. Ling Yuanxue said, "In our sect, all new disciples have to take it." Mu Honglien was stunned. This kind of expensive pill was needed to enter the sect. This meant that there were many in the sect. Chapter 607. Inside the room. Mu Honglien stood there in a daze. She had taken the body-shaping pill and spirit-tempering pill. Her body and spiritual energy had been strengthened. Words could not describe her feelings. It turned out that the pills sold in Huyang City were so miraculous. Even she, who had reached Wuzong, could improve greatly after taking them. And the spirit-tempering pill. The AI family did not sell this kind of pill. How could the sect of all times have it? Could it be that there was a pill master? Father. Mu Honglien gradually calmed down and murmured, "I think I'm too late." Not late, not late. It was the right time to join the sect of all times. Mu Honglien was still shocked by many things. She had not experienced the various facilities to improve her martial arts. As a princess, she was destined to be in a state of shock for a long time. In the past 3 months, many peak Wuzong disciples had appeared in the sect of all times. Long Xiang and the other inner disciples who joined later had also broken through to Martial King. The number of Martial Kings on the epic level mission had increased to 22. 21 inner disciples. Why was there one more? That was right. He Wudi, the last disciple, had also broken through to Martial King. His speed was amazing. After June Patriarch saw his true strength through the dazzling sunglasses, he wanted to take a scalpel and dissect him on the spot to see how his body was constructed. The system said, "Host, dissect yourself first." He Wudi's speed of improvement was based on his super divine grade spirit root. Sect Master Jun's rise from a low rank to a 9th rank dual king in sword and martial arts was the most shocking part. Whoosh whoosh. On this day, a heavy aura suddenly appeared in the cafeteria. Jun Changshao said, "Is someone about to break through?" He spread out his spiritual sense and instantly locked onto Ma Yongning. He had his eyes closed and his hands were still instinctively washing the dishes. The heavy aura was still spreading wildly. Yi Xingchen felt the aura and said, "King of Sabers." Zhou Hong's lips curled into a smile. The King of Sabers and he, the King of Swords, were born to be enemies. Now that Ma Yongning showed signs of breaking through, he was immediately eager to fight. Wow! Lu Wancher said in pleasant surprise, "Uncle Ma is going to break through." At this moment, an even heavier aura spread out from the cafeteria. Ma Yongning opened his eyes, and his entire person seemed to have become even more ancient than before. Zhou Hong had the same smell. Sure enough, the Sword King and the Saber King were extraordinary existences. Only when they appeared older and more experienced would they appear to be more impressive. "Blade, come!" Ma Yongning shouted. Whoosh! The kitchen knife on the chopping board flew out and was caught in his hand. This was the knife that was broken by Jun Changshao in the past. Chapter 608. The next day. After the routine morning exercise, Jun Changshao distributed the 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual to the disciples. Actually, they could also get it from the martial technique machine, but that would make it more grand. The 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual had 5 chapters: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. The disciples could choose one according to their preference, or they could choose more. As long as they were awesome, they could even cultivate all 5 elements. This mental cultivation method. Yi Xingqian said in disbelief, it actually contains the 5 elements. There were countless martial techniques in the Falling Star continent. The Night Emperor had cultivated many of them before, but most of them were related to the 5 elements. The powerful dual heaven of ice and fire only combined water and fire. He had never seen a mental cultivation method that contained all 5 elements. He continued reading. Yi Xingqian was even more shocked. Although he had not started cultivating it, his intuition told him that this mental cultivation method was not inferior to his Taishian Sutra. That's right. The 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual was above divine grade. In terms of level, it was even higher than the Taishian Sutra, but the prerequisite was to cultivate all 5 elements to perfection. For bodybuilding, there was the body metamorphosis scripture. For stabilizing the mind, there was the mind cleansing art. The 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual filled in the gaps in the comprehension of the heaven and earth elements. Yi Xingqian said in disbelief, why didn't he let the disciples cultivate such a powerful mental cultivation method earlier? In another room, He Wudi was also reading the 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual. The shock in his heart could not be described with words. He knew better than Yi Xingqian that a mental cultivation method that contained all 5 elements was extremely rare even in his world. It was definitely a superior mental cultivation method. It must have been left behind by the 7 profound sage. He Wudi exclaimed. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others also felt that the 5 Elements Heaven Mirror Manual was very powerful, but they were not as shocked. Instead, they started cultivating it. What element should we cultivate? Is there a need to think about it? We should cultivate fire or metal first. After many disciples made their choices, most of them chose the element that best displayed their combat strength. Of course. The female disciples mainly cultivated wood and water. Mu Honglian hadn't even started using the various martial arts facilities in the sect when she received the 5 Elements Heaven Appraising spell. She was stunned for a long time before she came back to her senses. Not being able to cultivate the Scarlet Firmament Raging Flame made her very depressed. However, this kind of mental cultivation method that contained the fire attribute was definitely dozens of times stronger than the mental cultivation method that she cultivated. I'm not late, I'm not late. The outer sect disciples made their choices one after another. Most of them chose to cultivate alone. Inner disciples were more confident and had higher aptitudes, so they were more inclined to cultivate more. For example, Xiao Ziji chose the earth, fire, and metal elements to optimize his defense and attack. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaoma were the same. The most ferocious ones were still Yi Xingqian and He Wudi. Both of them wanted to become a full cultivator. Of course, this would take a lot of time. However, if he succeeded in cultivating all 5 elements and achieved the cycle of the 5 elements, the benefits would be immeasurable. Jun Changshao sat in the study and carefully studied the 5 Elements Heaven Appraising spell. He said, there's no need to consider, I'll definitely cultivate all of them. Not only did he want to cultivate all of them, he also ordered his disciples to cultivate all of them even if they were to cultivate alone now. 5 Elements Heaven Appraising spell. It was a type of mental cultivation method of the 5 elements. If one wanted to break through, cultivating all of them was a must. In time, the disciples of the sect of all times comprehended all of their mental cultivation methods to the large success stage. Any one of them would be at the great perfection stage of the 5 elements. The scene was simply unimaginable. Whoosh whoosh. Half a month later, many disciples on the martial arts practice field were either gathering flames in their hands or shining with an incomparably sharp golden light. The 5 elements heaven appraising spell was easy to learn. Even those with low aptitude could comprehend it in a short period of time and transform their body's attributes, thus possessing a certain type of energy of the 5 elements. Similarly, if one wanted to master it, they would need time to comprehend it. Whoosh whoosh. Su Xiaoma rose into the air and reached out with both hands. Scorching flames immediately whistled out and gathered into a chop seal that suddenly blasted into the void. He used the Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash. With the support of the fire element, the power was obviously stronger than before. Hee hee. Li Fei scratched his head and said, "Senior brother Su, how about we fight?" "Ha." Su Xiaoma said, "You've got guts, haven't you?" "Senior brother Su, accept the challenge." "Senior brother Su, accept the challenge." Many disciples followed suit. "All right." Su Xiaoma grinned and said, "Then let's fight." Shwa. His fellow disciples retreated one after another, emptying the huge martial arts practice field. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei walked in. Then, they each used the cloud-treading steps and released their flames, unleashing their fiercest attacks. Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash. Scarlet Heaven Raging Flame Slash. Whoosh whoosh. As the two of them moved around, they tacitly used the same martial arts skill at the first moment. The two types of flames converged in mid-air and clashed with each other with scorching heat. Boom! Flames spewed out and the heat was monstrous. Thump! 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 Su Xiaoma and Li Tiantian each took 7 to 8 steps back. From the looks of it, the two of them didn't seem to have a winner. Buzz! At this moment, a green light suddenly appeared under their feet. Then, vines appeared one after another. Oh no! Li Fei was shocked and hurriedly wanted to get up, but the vines spread too quickly and wrapped around his legs in an instant. Whoosh whoosh. Su Xiaoma flew up, and the scorching flames condensed into a chop seal and blasted it down. However, just as it was about to hit Li Fei, it suddenly dissipated. The vines under his feet also evaporated. Junior brother. Su Xiaoma landed and smiled. Do you admit defeat? Li Fei scratched his head and said, I didn't expect senior brother to use the power of the wood element. This is something I didn't expect. That's why. Su Xiaoma said, you're still a little inexperienced. After cultivating the 5 elements heaven reflection technique, the disciples of the sect of all times would become some kind of 5 elements martial cultivator. That was only secondary. What really benefited them the most was cultivation and comprehension. Yi Xingqian surpassed them because he relied on the Taishian Sutra. The 5 elements heaven reflection technique was not inferior to the former in terms of level. Naturally, it would bring great benefits to the disciples. Another half a month passed. Many disciples entered the space-time secret realm to cultivate. Their comprehension of the technique deepened, and the speed of their improvement was really terrifying. Patriarch Li Qingyang said, after this cultivation, a total of 1,500 disciples have reached the peak of Wuzong. Jun Chengxiao's eyes widened. In the past, the growth rate was around 200 per month. This time, after the accelerated cultivation, it increased from 800 to 1,500. This was definitely a few times faster. Li Qingyang said, many of our disciples are also breaking through small realms much faster than before. Jun Chengxiao held his chin and said, it seems that the introduction of the martial techniques in the technique pavilion wasn't exaggerating. It's really powerful. The disciples improved quickly after cultivating the 5 elements heaven reflection technique. But this month, none of them broke through to the martial king realm. They had just finished cultivating the technique and had not completely comprehended it. It was unrealistic to expect them to immediately benefit from breaking through to the next realm. There's only 1 month left. Jun Changshao said, the herbs should be ready soon. A few days later. Hualing sat cross-legged on the martial arts practice field and said in a low voice, the pill given by the patriarch must be powerful. It's better to take it quickly. Yes. Chu Xiaonan swallowed the pill. The martial master pill melted in his mouth and turned into surging energy that instantly spread throughout his body. The expressions of Li Tian and the others changed drastically. At this moment, their bodies were filled with boundless energy, and the spiritual energy in their spirit cores was transforming crazily. That feeling was indescribably satisfying. Whoosh whoosh huff in an instant, the entire martial arts practice field was enveloped by a majestic aura. The scene was extremely shocking. Oh my God! Senior brothers, let's break through together. They are all at the peak of Wuzong. If they want to break through, won't they break through to the martial king realm? The disciples of the sect of all times widened their eyes. Even Yixingchen, who had just returned from his cultivation in the backyard, was dumbfounded on the spot. Collective breakthroughs had been staged in the sect before, but sitting in the martial arts practice field and gathering an incomparably majestic aura was definitely a mess. Moreover, breaking through was not a martial disciple or martial master, but a martial king. Xie Guangquan, who was inspecting the defenses of Qingyang City, raised his head and looked in the direction of Iron Bone Mountain. He saw a vast amount of spiritual energy gathering in the sky, forming an incomparably spectacular scene. Patriarch! Look! In the AI family, AI Shangke raised his head and exclaimed. AI Shangyao, AI Shangfang, and the other upper echelons of the family walked out one after another. Looking at the majestic energy gathering in the sky above Iron Bone Mountain, their mouths gradually opened. Li Tian and the other 30 disciples of the sect of all times sat in the martial arts practice field and broke through. The commotion could be said to be huge. The 8 cities of Qingyang County could clearly see it and were deeply shocked. Further away, in the Tsangshan sect, Ma Yunteng, Wang Donglin, and the others were also watching, their eyes flickering with astonishment. The aura gathering in the sky above Iron Bone Mountain meant that someone was about to break through to Martial King, but why was it so intense? Could it be that the person breaking through was not ordinary? That was not the case, it was because there were too many people. On this day, there seemed to be a natural phenomenon in the sky above Iron Bone Mountain, which was widely discussed by the martial cultivators of Qingyang County. On this day, in the martial arts practice field of the sect of all times, Li Tian, Hualing, and the other 30 disciples all broke through to Martial King. Perhaps one day, some ignorant force would think that the sect of all times was easy to bully and bring people over. In the end, all the disciples would erupt with Wuzong or Martial King cultivation, which would definitely scare them witless. 10 days later. Ding! Another notification sounded in his ear. The elder's value on the epic mission finally became 11, completely meeting the completion requirements. Who broke through? Ning Duzue broke through to the peak of Martial King first. However, Shi Wu's mission had a fixed time limit. Before half a year, even if the requirements were met, he would not take the initiative to complete it. Ding! A few more days passed. Ning Duxing also relied on spirit stones to successfully break through to the peak of Martial King, and the value became 21. Jun Changshao grinned and said, Peak of Wuzong, King level, and Peak of Martial King all exceeded the minimum value. After completing it, the reward will definitely be very rich. Time continued to pass. On the last day of the mission, in the last hour, our elder Jiang finally lived up to expectations and broke through to the peak of Martial King with the help of natural spirit stones. He opened the details of the epic mission details. Within half a year, the sect's disciples broke through to the peak of Wuzong, 2100,500, king level, 9,550, elders broke through to the peak of martial king, 31. On the roof of the main hall. Jun Changshao wore sunglasses and whispered with a cigar in his mouth, "Come on, my reward." He had to make himself stronger as much as possible. Raising one's cultivation realm could only shorten the gap between them, but it could not make them equal. Therefore, the products in the advanced shopping mall played a decisive role. Buy more universal talismans? Impossible. After all, it was only a one-time consumable, and the power it brought was only temporary. If he wanted to buy it, he would buy something that could increase his power permanently. For example, in the first row, there was a product called Sacred Flame Body. In the past, when he saw the price of 10,000 contribution points, Jun Patriarch was so scared that he hurriedly retracted it. He did not have the courage to continue reading, but now, he did not hesitate to click on the details. Item, Sacred Flame Body. Introduction, the strongest flame body in the mortal world. Effect, the user can create a sacred flame body in a short period of time, and control 3 types of divine grade fire seed and 10 types of saint grade fire seed. Advantage, after achieving the sacred flame body, it will be twice the result with half the effort when comprehending fire attribute cultivation techniques. When using fire attribute martial techniques, the power will also increase by 50%. Disadvantage, none. Price, 10,000 contribution points. The strongest flame body in the mortal world. Once it is formed, it can also control 3 types of divine grade fire seed and 10 types of saint grade fire seed. Jun Changshao said with a burning gaze, "Very strong." Calm down, calm down. There were still many good things, so there was no rush to buy them. Jun Patriarch suppressed his excitement and browsed through the other products. For example, the 9 transformation marrow cleansing pill was even more awesome. After consuming it, not only could it instantly raise the spirit root to divine grade, it could also reconstruct the flesh and meridians. It could be said to be a true marrow and bone cleansing. This is a real elixir. After the trash consumes it, he will immediately be able to counterattack like the protagonist. Jun Changshao exclaimed. Then, he looked at the dragon and elephant prajna palm. The introduction said that if one cultivated it successfully, they could refine their strength into the power of the dragon and elephant. When using it, they could even condense the dragon and elephant dharma idol. It was a very terrifying palm technique. Jun Changshao began to imagine that after learning it, he would be able to gather the power of thousands of dragon and elephant with a raise of his hand. The opponent's reaction would definitely be, "How many are there?" Of course. There were also some high-grade shops that were not of much use. For example, the 5 elements yin-yang harmony art, because it had similar functions to the 5 elements heavenly mirror art, it had no value. Chapter 611. Little Long Long, who was sleeping, seemed to realize that Jun Changshao was in trouble. It rushed from the study to the main hall, activated its human form, and pounced over without hesitation. It planned to use its body to share the great pain of the flames for its master. This kind of feeling made one want to cry. However, just as Little Long Long pounced over, its determined face suddenly turned into uncontrollable ecstasy. Master's fire element was too strong. If it could share the pain, it would definitely increase its strength by a lot. Smack! Little Long Long hugged Jun Changshao directly. It was dry and clumsy, not smooth at all. Hold him. Huff huff! Suddenly, hot flames erupted from Jun Changshao's body, instantly enveloping him and Little Long Long. This, Elder Wei and Elder Zhen widened their eyes. This was because the blazing flames that rose abruptly weren't crimson in color. Instead, they were a deep blue color similar to the color of the sea. Blue heavenly spirit flame. Zhen Dejuan exclaimed, "Divine grade flames." Huff huff. Right at this moment, the flames surrounding Jun Changxiao's body suddenly converged and were replaced by a purple flame. This is, Elder Wei couldn't calm down. Purple mystic sacred flame. Huff huff. As soon as he finished speaking, the color of the flames changed again, and finally turned into a normal color. The temperature also rose instantly, as if the entire main hall was about to be ignited. Elder Wei and Elder Zhen couldn't tell what kind of flame it was, but considering the changes just now and the two divine-grade flames that appeared, they were sure that it wasn't ordinary. Scarlet Star Absolute Flame. Mu Honglian, who had been silent all this time, spoke, her eyes filled with shock. Blue Heavenly Spirit Flame, Purple Mystic Sacred Flame, and Scarlet Star Absolute Flame were all recognized as the strongest divine-grade flames in the Falling Star continent. Now that they appeared around the Patriarch one after another, the shock was self-evident. No wonder he was in so much pain. If an ordinary person were to endure the three divine-grade flames, they would have been burned into nothingness. Huff huff. The flames around Jun Changxiao began to change again. In a short time, there were 10 flames, each with a different color and temperature. Mu Honglian opened her mouth and said in disbelief, "They are all divine-grade flames." 3 divine-grade flames. 10 types of saint-grade. Now that they had appeared one after another around Jun Changxiao, it was clear that he was undergoing the transformation of his body of holy flame. The process was very painful. Every minute and second felt like they were in hell, enduring endless torment. If it weren't for the reader's feelings, I could have tortured Jun Patriarch for 3 chapters. I could guarantee that he'd be in so much pain that he'd wish he was dead and would remember it for the rest of his life. This time, he had his eyes on the dragon and elephant Prajna palm strike. Now that he had the physique, he would definitely be equipped with an awesome martial technique. To forge iron, one had to be strong. However, if he could get some support equipment, it would definitely be the icing on the cake. No, no. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Xinyao can create martial arts, and it's only a matter of time before she can exchange for the Universe 9 Seals palms. Spending 10,000 contribution points to buy a martial art seems a bit wasteful." The main reason was that money was too tight. If he had 100 or 80,000 contribution points, he would definitely say, "There's no harm in having more skills." In the end, Jun Changxiao did not buy the dragon elephant Prajna palm. Instead, he locked his eyes on the mechanical armed wings. The thing that moved him the most was that he could fly freely after wearing it. Fly. Not to mention martial artists, even ordinary people would fantasize about it. Jun Changxiao said, "This item is the same as a gun. Even if I break through Wu Huang in the future, I don't need to borrow it. I can give it to my disciples and let them transform into Iron Man." Ding. The host has spent 10,000 contribution points and obtained the mechanical armed wings X1. It has been transferred into the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution points, 299120000. Shi Wu completed the mission. The contribution points rewarded were instantly spent by him buying 2 items. There was no other way. There was no interest in saving it. It was better to spend it to make himself stronger. The mechanical armed wings was an item similar to a boxing glove. It had a strong modern aura, like a mechanical glove made of some kind of high-grade ore. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao communicated with his mind. His right hand was instantly surrounded by flowing light. Pieces of iron plates appeared and then connected with each other. They covered his palm and even half of his arm. The mechanical armed wings had 3 forms. The first form was flight. The second form was combat. The third form was defense. After it was activated, it could be activated individually or in a variety of ways. Oh my god! Su Xiaoma passed by the hall and saw the shiny silver glove. He was surprised and said, "Patriarch, what is this?" Jun Changxiao said, "Infinite glove. As he spoke, he stepped out and directly activated the non-flying form. Ka. In an instant, the mechanical glove flickered like fireflies and covered Jun Changxiao's body. Then, a dazzling light was drawn on his back and gradually materialized. Swoosh! A pair of silver-white mechanical wings appeared. Even Jun Changxiao's body was covered by some kind of special steel material. He looked like a futuristic warrior in the movies. Cool. Su Xiaoma was dumbfounded. He even thought that this might be some kind of special armor. Ta! Chapter 613. After obtaining the body of Holy Flame and the mechanical armed wings, Jun Changxiao's strength would definitely increase greatly, but as for how much, it would be impossible to analyze without actual combat. No. He had to try. Restless thoughts of courting death surged up, making Jun Patriarch want to find someone to fight. Do you still have any enemies that you haven't settled? Yes. For example, the 100 Sect Alliance. However, with Jun Patriarch's current strength, he could crush them with a single finger. Even if he went to find them to fight, it wouldn't show off how awesome he was. Why don't I go to Demon Fiend's Sect and Deicide Shrine? When this thought arose, he couldn't help but say, just thinking about it makes me excited. It's more than just exciting. The system said, it's also very suicidal. A fourth-rate extreme cold palace had a half-step wusheng, so a third-rate evil sect would definitely have one. Jun Changxiao only thought about it, and naturally did not dare to mindlessly kill his way over. With the strongest physique of the fire element and the mechanical armed wings, if he didn't go out and act cool, he would really feel suffocated. Forget it. Jun Changxiao said, let's continue to develop the sect, and then bring the disciples to challenge the Lily Holy Sect. Patriarch. Li Qingyang walked into the main hall and said, there are many more people who want to join the sect. How many? 3,000 to 4,000 people. Jun Changxiao was not surprised. After all, to be able to defeat a half-step saint, as long as one was not blind, one could see that the sect's potential was huge. Inform the two elders Ning to be in charge of the recruitment. Yes. Just as Li Qingyang left, Elder Wei walked in and said, Patriarch, the sect's reputation has already been established, and there are many disciples. Why don't we set up some tests to filter out the outstanding juniors? A mature sect did not depend on how many disciples were willing to join, but it had the most professional entry process. The most common thing was that the large sects would open their doors every once in a while to recruit the elites of the world, and let them go through many tests, from their aptitude and perseverance to the survival of the fittest. That makes sense. Jun Changxiao agreed. Now that the sect had a certain scale, they couldn't just carry a stool outside every day to recruit new disciples just because someone came to sign up. They had to have a systematic plan and develop in a positive manner. Elder Wei. Jun Changxiao said, do you have any good suggestions? Elder Wei said, I think we can open the mountain gate at a fixed time and recruit disciples. We can also set up a series of tests. Those who pass the tests can enter the sect. Accepted. Jun Changxiao said. However, how should they test him? Elder Wei said, we can learn from some of the more mature sect's assessment systems. Not only did it grow taller, its body was also very muscular and beautiful. Don't misunderstand. It was not an evolution like Little Dragon, but it had put in too much effort and was tempered out alive. What kind of species are you? Jun Changxiao muttered. It used to look like a pig, but now it was completely different. The system said, with the earth attribute, this mirage beast should not be ordinary. It looks a bit useless now, but it might evolve one day. Is that so? Jun Changxiao was looking forward to the day when the little guy would evolve. Hoot hoot. At this moment, Peppa the wild boar, which had just turned the ground over, fell straight to the ground. Jun Changshao shook his head and summoned the green dragon crescent blade. He said coldly, "If you dare to play dead again, I will kill you immediately." Swish! Peppa the wild boar straightened its body instantly and continued to work energetically. Screech above the heavenly Mandate Academy, the cry of the eagle beast could be heard. Immediately, the black eagle of the Demon Ridge flapped its wings and slowly landed on the field, stirring up a gust of wind. "It's Teacher Jun!" All the disciples exclaimed in admiration. Under their gaze, Jun Changshao walked into the meeting hall with his sunglasses on. This time, there was only one purpose for his visit, and that was to thank the Academy for sending strong cultivators to protect him in secret. Dean Situ. After sitting down, Jun Changshao said nothing and put 2 bottles of body-shaping elixir on the table. He said, "Thank you for your help not long ago. Jun is very grateful. I offer these body-shaping elixir as a token of my respect." The body-shaping elixir sold by the AI family? Situ Haoyun asked in surprise. Jun Changshao said, "That's right. Jun Patriarch is the honorary teacher of our academy. It is natural for him to help when he is in trouble," Situ Haoyun said as he took the elixir away. He did not reject it at all. Jun Changshao chatted with him for a while and then went to the certification headquarters. He presented 2 bottles of body-shaping elixir and then went to the City Lord's office to visit City Lord Mu. Mu Changhong was very hospitable. Especially at the banquet, every time he looked at this rising star, he would smile. He even changed the way he addressed Yi Futian instead of Jun Patriarch. City Lord Mu. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, "I am busy with the sect affairs. I will take my leave first." City Lord Mu personally went out to see him off. After returning to the sect, before Jun Changshao could enter the main hall, Yi Xingqian walked over and said, "Patriarch, I am going to challenge the geniuses on the Gathering of Heroes list." After obtaining the right to challenge, he did not challenge them immediately. Instead, he continued to cultivate in the sect. Now that he had become a martial king, the time had come. "Patriarch, I will go too," Xiao Ziji said. This guy is quite fast. If the Black Eagle of the Demon Ridge or the Hurricane Wolf King were given to Yi Xingqian, he would be able to travel between provinces and counties faster and defeat more geniuses on the list of heroes. Patriarch Li Luoqiu said, "Every time this guy challenges someone, he beats his opponent half to death. If this continues, I'm afraid he will anger everyone." Jun Changshao said disapprovingly, "If he's not as skilled as others, he should be willing to accept defeat. Like disciple, like patriarch. Oh my god, that guy has never been on the list of heroes, but he has directly charged into the top 50. This speed is definitely the fastest in history, right?" When the latest list of heroes was released, many cultivators widened their eyes when they saw Yi Xingqian's ranking. The challenges were still ongoing. Half a month later, the latest list of heroes was released. Yi Xingqian had directly charged from 45th to 2nd place, which immediately caused a huge sensation in various provinces and counties. In just 30 days. From being unknown to 2nd place in the human list, this speed was simply unprecedented. Northwest He State, Monarch City. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of martial cultivators had gathered outside the arena. He's Yi Xingqian. In just a month, he charged from the bottom to 2nd place. His speed of improvement is really terrifying. If he wins this challenge to the 1st place in the human list, won't he be invincible? In the arena, Yi Xingqian stood proudly with his hands behind his back. After defeating the 2nd place in the human list, he came to Monarch City and issued a challenge to the 1st place genius. He could be said to be swift and decisive. Young Master's son is here. At this moment, someone shouted at the top of his lungs. On the empty road, a handsome young man was walking over, surrounded by servants. Sun Heyu. A direct descendant of Monarch City's Sun family. The first place in the human list of heroes. There were not many geniuses in Northwest He State who were on the list of heroes. Sun Heyu was definitely an outstanding talent of the younger generation to be able to charge into the first place. He was also an existence that everyone admired and looked up to. Young Master Sun is so handsome. He will definitely defeat the Yixingchen. There's a banker. I've bet all my assets on young Master Sun. Sun Heyu's arrival immediately caused a commotion. It was enough to show that this genius who was ranked first in the human list was extremely popular in Monarch City. Ta! After landing on the arena, Sun Heyu said proudly, "You're quite capable to be able to rise to second place in the human list in such a short time. However, if you challenge me, your winning streak will also end. Even his side profile is so handsome. I can't take it anymore." Some of the young ladies were so mesmerized by Sun Heyu's side profile that they couldn't differentiate north from south. At the same time, they didn't forget to look at Yixingchen with a terrifying gaze. "How dare you challenge my idol? Just wait to be tortured." Xiao Ziji, who was in the crowd, shook his head and said, "This person's strength is average. He won't be able to escape being tortured by junior brother Yi." Chapter 616. Just as Yixingchen was challenging the human class geniuses, the Sect of All Times was holding the second Sect competition. According to last year's rules, this year's competition was split into 4 groups, A, B, C, and D. Group D was undoubtedly the weakest. But this year's disciples were all from Wuzong and the battles were intense. Without exaggerating, with the current strength of the Sect of All Times disciples, if they were to participate in the Sect competition, they would definitely be the champion, leaving no way out for the other participants. Yixingchen challenged the human class geniuses for 99 battles, but none of them were comparable to the battles in Group D. Why? Because they were all instant kills, not exciting at all. On the other hand, the disciples in Group D were on par with each other and were familiar with the Sect's martial techniques. When they fought, sparks flew everywhere. A pity. As it was an internal Sect competition, there were no outsiders watching, or else they would be shocked beyond words. The highest level was still Group A. Because those who dared to sign up were all martial kings who relied on martial king pills. Martial kings in the Sect competition. If this were to spread out, it would definitely shock everyone. Li Tiantian, Lin Jiangheng, Sima Zhongde and the other disciples signed up for Group A and also displayed their strength. However, the most valuable championship was won by He Wudi, who had entered the competition later. Too powerful. They are not even on the same level. Li Tiantian, Cui Bujian and the rest were defeated, all of them wanted to cry. In the previous Sect competition, they did not dare to participate in Group A because Long Xiang and the rest were too strong. That group of people were promoted to the inner Sect and finally felt like they had made a name for themselves. In the end, He Wudi appeared out of nowhere and directly took the second champion with his powerful cultivation. The champion had more rewards. Li Tiantian and the rest who performed well in Group A successfully became inner Sect disciples. At this point, the number of inner Sect disciples in the Sect of All Times increased from the initial 21 to 93. In other words, the outer Sect disciples who relied on martial king pills to break through to martial king were all accepted into the inner Sect. He Wudi did not become an inner Sect disciple because he was the last disciple. Although it was a joke at the start, as he displayed his monstrous talent, Jun Changshao gradually realized that he deserved to be the last disciple. Ding! Disciple Yixingchen has been promoted to the first rank of the Gathering of Heroes leaderboard. Host has received 5,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 8211200000. A few days after the Sect Grand Competition ended, a notification sounded in Jun Changshao's ears. Damn! It instantly condensed into a chopped seal and blasted toward him. Oh no! That martial king was shocked. Rumble. In the next second, he was sent flying and fell to the ground in a sorry state. His chest was burned, and he passed out gloriously. He came quickly, but he also lost quickly. Those spectators who wanted to cheer for that martial king were all stunned on the spot with their mouths agape. Even a martial king was instantly killed by him. How terrifying was his strength! Yixingqian retracted his flames and looked at the martial artists present. He said arrogantly, "Who else is not convinced?" "I'm not convinced." "I'm not convinced either." A few martial kings in King City were eager to fight. If they didn't defeat this arrogant guy today, they wouldn't be able to swallow their anger. Sect of all times. As usual, Jun Changshao supervised the disciples' cultivation. Occasionally, he would go to the herb garden to drink tea with Elder Wei. His life was very smooth. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Luoqiu hurried over and said, "Something happened." "What's wrong?" Jun Changshao asked. Li Luoqiu said solemnly, "Yixingqian has offended too many people in King City." As soon as he and Xiao Ziji left King City, they were targeted by a few Wu Huang. "Fuck." Jun Changshao said, "They can't beat my disciple, so they sent people to ambush him." Is Northwest Hizhou so shameless? He didn't know how arrogant Yixingqian was in King City. Xiao Ziji sent a request for help. "The two of them are trapped in the Yin mountain ridge," Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changshao walked out of the hall and instantly gathered mechanical wings behind him. He said with a cold gaze, "I want to see who dares to bully my sect of all times." Whoosh! He turned into a stream of light and sped towards the northwest. Li Luoqiu shook her head and said, when he found out that Lu Qianqian was bullied in northeast Luzhou, he angrily gathered people to attack. Now that Yixingqian and Xiao Ziji are trapped, he doesn't panic. They're both disciples, but why is there such a big difference? She said that. It was as if Jun Patriarch was biased. You have to rely on yourself. What he said made sense. Xiao Ziji did not say anything and hurriedly followed him. The two of them did not dare to release their spiritual senses recklessly to avoid being captured. They could only move stealthily in the forest. Over there. They were still discovered. Whoosh whoosh, violent spiritual energy surged forth, instantly shattering the surrounding trees into pieces. Yixingqian and Xiao Ziji immediately used cloud-treading steps to dash into the nearby bushes and disappeared without a trace. Buzz! In an instant, their qi domain opened. Wu Huang, who had chased after them, sealed off the area and then searched carefully, but he still could not find them. Qi domains could be used against other martial kings, but they were useless against Xiao Ziji and Yixingqian. Because the two of them had been cultivating in the Tower of Trials all year round, as long as it was not the kind of pressure that suppressed their level, they would not be affected for a short period of time. Damn it! Wu Huang said angrily, do they have a treasure that can resist qi domains? Another person who had rushed over said, if the sect of all times didn't have this ability, it would be impossible for them to rise in such a short time. It's better to go to Azure Sun County and hide in the dark while waiting for the sect of all times disciples to come out. Then, we can kidnap any one of them and report back to the master. Mu Changhong has already broken through to half-step Wusheng, and Jun Changshao has already beaten up the Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace. We will definitely be discovered if we go over. Wu Huang fell silent. The patriarch of the sect of all times could beat up a half-step sage, so he naturally did not have the courage to go to their territory. Junior brother Yi. Xiao Ziji, who was hiding, transmitted his voice, these people are wearing masks and look very mysterious. They might not be experts from the royal city. Yixingqian did not say anything. Actually, he had already realized it. These people are dressed strangely. They must be from a shady faction, Yi Xingqian thought to himself. Let's go. After observing for a while, he set off again. Xiao Zuiji followed closely behind. Just like that, the two of them sneaked through the forest and soon arrived at the entrance. Junior brother, they seem to have left. It's not that simple. Yi Xingqian did not think that the four Wu Huang had left. They might have deliberately left a flaw. The two of them hid in the dark and waited. An hour later, the entrance was still empty. Occasionally, a few ferocious beasts would pass by, indicating that there was no one nearby. Yi Xingqian was still worried and continued to wait in the dark. As expected. After another hour, two masked martial emperors flew over and released their spiritual senses into the valley. They couldn't help but complain when they didn't find anything. Yi Xingqian said, "You're in trouble."